In the world of politics on this Thursday, there is a lot going on. Perfect timing for Caroline Heldman, professor of critical theory and social justice at Occidental College. She is here, as she always is, on Thursdays to break it all down for us. Good morning.
Good morning, Giselle. I love your color choice.
Yeah, yours too, girl. We called. And it's good. We need a power color for today. The U.S. economy shrunk for a second straight quarter. As you know, this fuels fears of this all-important recession. How bad for President Biden with already record low approval ratings heading into the midterms?
Well, I think that consumers are already looking at inflation, and the negative effects of that on the election are pretty set in place. One thing to look at as a political scientist is that there's a lag time. There's a very long time between gas prices coming down and then people really feeling that. And so I think at this point, the inflation, even though gas prices are improving, and as you pointed out in your previous segment, the job situation is improving, and in fact, our unemployment rates are the lowest they've been in half a century. There will still be negative economic effects going into the election because of the lag time for the American public.
Yeah. All right. I do want to ask you as well about this major prison swap on the table of Victor Bout, a convicted Russian arms dealer, in exchange for Brittany Griner and Paul Whelan. This would be the first major diplomatic exchange between Russia and the U.S. since the war in Ukraine began. How significant is this?
This is a big deal. It's not the first time we've done this, and the U.S. government will say, look, we don't like to do this because it sets a precedent, but we have done these high-profile prisoner swaps dozens of times throughout U.S. history. In this particular case, we've never had, a WNBA star wrongfully detained, and of course, Mr. Whelan's name is less known, but his story has certainly been circulated, also a wrongful detainment. So this is a significant moment. Let's hope that Russia takes the deal.
Well, President Biden reportedly overrode the DOJ's resistance to making this deal. But the president obviously felt a lot of pressure to make this happen. What's at risk for him in doing so?
Well, I think Biden gains from this in terms of public opinion. The DOJ, I assume, was very reluctant to engage in this deal because of Victor Bout. I mean, he's called the merchant of death. I mean, this is not a man that you want being released in a prisoner swap. But most Americans probably don't know much about him. And I would guess that Biden will actually get the benefit of public opinion here.
So another major news, Caroline, a surprise breakthrough between Joe Manchin and Chuck Schumer on climate change, energy, and health care. Not sure if Bernie Sanders or the progressive wing of this party come on board, but how significant and, what do you make of Manchin's reversal?
Wow. So Manchin out McConnell last night. And I say this because Mitch McConnell's known for some of these hijinks. So there were three bills last night up for consideration that are significant here. The first is the chips, the manufacturing semiconductor support so we can compete with China. Mitch McConnell said, look, we're not going to vote for this unless this other bill, this second one that you just mentioned, does not pass. And so, Manchin went in with the agreement that it wouldn't pass. So Republicans passed the CHIPS bill, and then Democrats came out of nowhere, passed that second bill, going against their deal with Republicans. And in response, Republicans retaliated by voting against health care support for veterans. So it was a rough day on the Hill last night, but I do think that we'll see Bernie Sanders and others of the more progressive wing of the Democratic Party get behind this, because not only is it going to reduce health care costs, it will be Biden's legacy likely. It's a $369 billion bill aimed at addressing the climate crisis.
And he certainly needs that victory, as you well know. So the DOJ is confirming now a criminal investigation into former President Donald Trump and his allies of the attack on the Capitol. Merrick Garland has said no one is above the law. For a long time, I've asked you this. How many times have I asked you this question? You have doubted whether or not the Justice Department would prosecute a former president. But now it looks more possible than ever before. No?
It absolutely does, Giselle. You can see my smile. This is maybe tepid optimism. Now, they haven't opened an investigation, which would be a massive step, but they are talking to people about Trump, which is a significant sign. It means, they're possibly looking at him for the three charges he might be up against: defrauding the government, inciting a riot against the government, and the most likely one, which would be obstructing the business of Congress. Now, there's a long long way to go, but it does appear that the DOJ is at least considering holding him accountable. And I think this is, it set partisanship aside, very important given the threat to democracy that January 6th poses.
And what's the impact on this on the GOP? Do they stick with Trump?
You know, they're already starting to, there's some softness there, right? And I think this has everything to do with the January 6th hearings. So while they might not be, you know, this is not a legal proceeding, it's certainly affecting public opinion. So what we see is about 50% of Republicans at this point would like a candidate other than Donald Trump. Now, he's still the most popular in the party, but his support is weakening amongst his loyal base.
I have to ask you this about Liz Cheney, obviously being primaried by Trump in her very conservative state of Wyoming. She says she's chosen to stand up for the country as opposed to her party. Does she run for president?
I assume she will run for president. She doesn't have a shot because she's disaffected members of the Republican Party. She's not a Democrat. She doesn't really have a place in the American political system. But she knew this going into it. She sacrificed her career for the good of the nation and democracy.
75% of Democrats say they want someone other than President Biden. 75%. Kamala Harris's poll numbers are also low. Do the Democrats have another alternative, like Gavin Newsom, perhaps?
He does appear to be the person that Democrats are most supportive or excited about right now, probably because he ran ads in Ron DeSantis' fine state of Florida and also put an ad in a newspaper going head to head with Greg Abbott in Texas. So it's really clear to me that Newsom is angling for the presidency.
Well, there'll be lots to talk about in the days and weeks ahead, right? All right, Caroline Heldman, thank you so very much. Professor of Critical Theory and Social Justice at Occidental College. We so appreciate you coming on every Thursday and more when we need you to break down these political conversations. Thanks so much.